What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Virzi Effect podcast show. My name is Paul Virzi. You guys listening to episode 546, and today I have a very, very special guest. I missed last week. I was on a little vacation, which was a shit show. I'll get into that later, but my guest today, dude, is not gonna lie. My guest today is making me feel like I don't work hard enough when I'm seeing all the shit that he's doing. You know, people are telling me I'm working hard, but he's got two Netflix specials, one called Dark, one called Jigsaw, an HBO special called X. Am I getting that right? Yeah. And he's got a book out, Everyone You Hate Is Going to Die. And if that wasn't enough, an off-Broadway play called Can't. Is that?
Oh yeah, that's the new show I'm writing. It's just called Can't. I've not written it yet.
But you're writing, and I mean, dude, you're just, by the way, okay, let me say his name. Daniel Sloss is here on the show, international, crushing it internationally, which is unlike a lot of other people because the dude's putting the work in all over the globe. You're so funny, brother, and Thanks, and you've done so much that, like, you know, I have a special out now. I have a couple things going on, and I'm traveling, I'm touring, I'm trying to get the new hour, and I think I got my shit together. And then the great Michael O'Brien, who you work with as well, our publicist, he sends me all your shit, and I'm going, man, I got to get my shit together. This kid's working.
Yeah, but man, like, I'll be dead by 40, so like I got to get it in now. Like, I've only got a certain amount of time to achieve before it's like, you know, and you got to make sure that you don't fucking peak, or you peak just before you die so that people think there was more. Like, if the perfect timing would be for your best special to come out and then dead the next day, because people would have been like, well, how good would the next one have been? It would have been dog shit. It would have been absolute dog shit. That's why I had to die.
Yeah, I did it. I blew my load with that one. That was the best that I had. But, you know, it just goes to show that, like, you know, a steady dose of work and just kind of doing what you do, is really the name of the game. Like, you seem like the type of guy that you just put your head down and you just got to keep working on projects. And I'm the same way. Like, I think that that's kind of what hurt my social media. Like, I cared so much about stand-up, you know, that for a while, especially pre-pandemic, I was like, you know, let me just, you know, I'll put out a podcast here and there, and I'll take a picture at the ball game with my kid. But, like, that was not so secondary to me. And the stand-up was getting better, but now I see the importance of both and doing everything, and podcasts and social media clips and all. It's a different game.
Social media now is like, I feel like we've hit like critical mass on the social media stuff. Because I mean, I don't know how much what it's like in the States, but like for the past 5 years, there's been like a bunch of comedians who were doing like the first Patreon podcasts, and we all sat there going, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what's that? That's a weird way to connect with your fans. And then they would start putting like all of their stand-up, they'd film every night. They did, and they'd put out like 1 or 2 minutes material. And I'm sat there going, these motherfuckers are burning material. Like, what are they doing? This is so fucking insane. Like, this is never going to fucking work. People are doing social media. They're doing like Q&A with their fans. And I'm like, all right, if that's how everyone else wants to do it, fucking enjoy it. And it's now at the point where all of the people who I was just going, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Are now crushing it. Rightfully so, deservedly fucking so. And now I feel like I'm just going, okay, so what's TikTok and what's a Patreon? Can someone just talk me through all of this? Because I thought the game was, or at least the game was when I started, it was just about that fucking hour, man. Like, I mean, in Edinburgh, in the UK, we've got the Fringe every year. So that's where you do 50 minutes to an hour, and you have to do a new one every year. Now, my first 4 hours were fucking garbage. Like, in all those 4 hours, probably about an hour's worth of actual material. But, you know, learning to write to that fucking deadline and learning how to just like not get too attached to jokes and go, right, I love that, but it's done. I've seen it, and to move on has definitely helped me in my fucking career of just, you know, because man, we work with so many fucking talented people, like naturally talented people, that if you're not naturally talented, you have to work that a little bit harder.
Well,
Like, you know, you got to put, it's like, you know, if you, when Michael Jordan, such a fucking natural athlete, not only the best fucking ever, but when you're watching him, imagine being an athlete back then going like, but even if I was in the gym every day, I couldn't, you know, have that perfect body for this.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you said what you were saying before about leading up to, you know, always having the hour and then people just putting stuff out all the time. And you're going, that may never work. But here's the difference. And I don't know what you think about this. Give me your take on it. I feel because I'm seeing this. And again, and you said another good point, not to knock anybody's success. As a matter of fact, if you go out there and you're doing social media stuff and stuff that I might not do, man on the street or dressing weird or eating gross shit and all that, and you're getting followers, I can't knock you making money and filling a room. I could never knock it. It might not be the way that I might do it, but I do think that somebody like you, I would like to think somebody like myself, when you do go to the club, you do go to wherever we're performing and you see us live, I believe that the work that we put into where it is all about the hour does shine through, you know, because it's just not the lazy way. It's just the work way. Do you know what I mean?
But that's how you have like a longer career, because if people trust like if they see you do an hour and they fucking love it, they're going to come back next year and they're going to bring friends because they're going to be like, hey, I saw this guy last year, I thought it was fucking brilliant. They come and see your new hour. If that new hour is as good or better, then the same thing happens. And as long as you keep doing that and producing work of the same level, which you should be able to, since, you know, that's what you've been doing for fucking 10 years. You build an audience that stays with you because they've seen you grow as well. Mike, man, fans fucking really get off on the fact that, you know, they've been a fan of yours for 7 years. I've got so many people come up to me and they're like, I saw you when you were 17. And I'm like, oh man, like I was so shit back then. They were like, yeah, but like, look now, look how far you've come.
They almost feel that just happened. It's crazy you just said that, because I was just in Chicago and this guy walked up and he goes, hey, man, he waited for the line to go away. You know, those, they want to really talk.
Yeah, and sometimes that's good. And sometimes, like when people are waiting at the end, I'm like, is this a cycle or somebody bringing me drugs? Like which of the two? Is this really cool and the benefits of the job, or is this the downsides of the job? And I'm just going to have someone explain to me why. I think you'll find the joke you did earlier on didn't make sense because, I don't give a shit.
Oh, those people are the worst. Yeah, but it's also like, is this a diehard fan or am I going to end up on the train tracks in Chicago?
Yeah.
But this dude was waiting and he's waiting with his wife. And I could kind of tell the way his demeanor was, his head down, and I could tell that he was a real fan. But he walked up and he goes, dude, he goes, I saw you. He goes, I just want to tell you, he goes, I saw you at the very beginning when you were first coming to New York City. And he goes, and to watch your special on Netflix and to hear you on this podcast and Joe Rogan plug and all this stuff. And he's just like, I just want to let you know, dude, I've been there. So because they feel like those people feel like in a weird way, we kind of validated their opinion of us in comedy, right?
Yes, you repaid the faith. Like they were like, okay, I see potential here.
Yeah,
you know, this is good, and it comes from. We're like the less classy version of a really good bottle of wine. Like they're like, this aged so good. This is like worth $1,500 now.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I learned about you over the few days leading up to you coming on the show, you know, I was getting sent stuff, and I always want to kind of know my guests. And I've seen clips of you here and there, and I've seen you do stuff, and I always really thought you were good. But I noticed something that you do that I do in the same thought process is I tend to go dark thoughts sometimes too, but even in a situation where I will talk about my children and my kids or my life as a family man and positive stuff and family stuff, but then I will go, and I think a lot of comics do this and have it, and I see that you do too, is like you will talk about, like I saw a clip that you did where you were just thinking about like, look, I would never hurt the person I'm with, but the thought of the problem being gone if they died, right?
Yeah.
And it's such an honest thing that everybody thinks about. Of course, the crowd's going to go, whoa, what the fuck? But at the same time, it's such a real honest thing. And I like that because I have that too. And I was just wondering, do you have, because I suffer from OCD thoughts.
Yeah.
So my OCD isn't so much. It used to be when I was younger, physical, right?
Yeah.
I would have to tap something 3 times, or I'd wash but as I grew up, it kind of went to unwanted and kind of crazy thoughts.
Intrusive thoughts. Yeah.
Intrusive thoughts. And, you know, and what they do is they call it a pure obsessive, where like you kind of just have these unwanted harm, like you would never hurt that person you love, but that's what comes in. Do you have that, or is it more just like a thought that you had on stage? Do you have any of that anxiety or no?
Heaps, man. Like fucking my fiance, like we've been together for 3 or 4 years now, and I think it was about like a year ago, it was mid-pandemic, I realized in the relationship, because this had never happened to me before, I was like, oh, I'm the psycho in this relationship.
Yeah.
Like I've always been the logical one, the smart one, the emotionally mature one, able to compose myself and, you know, get my thoughts out and, you know, be reasonable. And then, I mean, with the pandemic happening and with, you know, just fucking getting older, I smoke heaps of weed and, you know, you don't have the confidence as a 30-year-old that you do when you're fucking 18. I started getting the natural anxieties that we all fucking get. And my fiance doesn't get any of that shit. And, you know, I'm in therapy because I don't need to get these thoughts out in some places. And they're always assuring me that the thoughts are normal. And I'm like, I don't think it's normal. Like, I refuse to believe that everyone else, when somebody like cuts them off or like beeps at them in the car or makes you slam on the brakes when your kid's in the back, I don't think anyone has the full-blown fantasies of tracking that person down, not doing anything to them, finding their loved ones, and in some fucked up way ruining their lives. So, but then in no ways that can be traced back to me, but just so I can watch from a distance and watch their lives collapse around them at my orchestration. And in my head, I'll be like, that's what you get for tooting at me. I'm like, those aren't normal thoughts. And then because I really picture myself, my perception of myself and apparently how I come across are 2 very different things, because I'm in my head. So sure. I know all of my fucking thoughts. I know my thought processes. If I ever do a kind thing, if I'm ever reasonable, like if, you know, if I'm in an argument with someone and I'm so angry afterwards, but when I eventually calm down, realize that I was in the wrong, I am able to go up to the person and go, hey, man, I'm really sorry. I was in whatever headspace yesterday. I made this fucking mistake. And they're like, you're so calm. I'm like, you were dead in my head for 19 fucking hours. I slit your throat with a fucking box cutter in my mind, and I laughed and I got a little bit erect. Like, you're only seeing the maturity, the intelligence, but the hell that it took to get to this fucking point isn't the thought process of a normal human being.
Yeah, your mother was duct taped to a chair.
Oh, and I was beating her. And I like her. She makes me dinner. Like, I've nothing against your mom. But when you fucked me over.
Yeah, no, it does make you think, like, the doctors are like, are they bullshitting or is it? But here's the one thing that I noticed about the doctors is they hear, believe it or not, Daniel, they hear worse than us on really high levels. Yeah. Like they'll hear that. And then they'll also be like, dude, this guy today, like, actually like went to the house.
Yeah.
like there's a difference between me and you, like sitting in the car at a red light, fantasizing that. But then there's a dude that like follows them home and has to contemplate in their driveway and then goes home. He's a little more fucked up.
My therapist once did call me a palate cleanser. She was just like, she's like, it's really this, because like I come in and like and even in fucking therapy, man, I'm so desperate to be funny. Like I'm so desperate to make her laugh. Like, and here's how hard and awful my fucking ego is. This is my second therapist. My first therapist was great. I don't have anything bad to say about him, except for, and this is pathetic, I went to him after the X tour I did, because it was 18 months, it was 300 shows. I was away so much, man. I lost my mind. I drank too much. I didn't exercise. And when I'm in a bad mood, boy, do I fucking wallow in it. Like I'm a martyr for my fucking self. came back, knew I was angry at everyone, signed myself up to therapy. And my first therapist, I'm telling him about all this stuff, he didn't know who I was. And that's fine. Most people don't know her. But like in Scotland, I'm a bit more well known.
Sure.
And he was Dutch and he didn't know who I was. And after like a couple of, so I'm talking about the stresses of my job, and he's like, yeah, that sounds difficult. I'm like, no, but like fucking Google me and see how actually difficult it fucking is, please. Like I'm not an open spot coming in here and fucking complaining about taking every fucking way. Like I gigged in Russia, motherfucker. Like, and through the entire fucking thing, he never Googled me. He was a great therapist. I became a better person by the fucking end of it. We got to the end of my problems with him, and then just last year, I think it was just before my fiance was pregnant, and I was on a bad sort of tour, and I was regressing to the negative mindset, and I was like, okay, right, well, that's time for therapy. It's time for me. So I got a new one, and man, she knows who I am, and I can't tell you how fulfilling it is. Like, man, because she gets it, because like I'll say these things, I'm like, I'm so terrified of not being funny. Like I'm so terrified.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, man. Like even after fucking, this show here will be my 12th hour. And I'm so scared that I'll just forget how to be funny, that I won't be funny anymore, because you build yourself so much up in your head. And because like the way your career goes, and you know this extremely well, the way your career path, it's never a direct path up. There's points when, hey, I got this fucking Comedy Central special, you go up, and then there's a plateau for a bit, and then there's a Netflix special, you go up, and everything booms up, and all the venues get slightly bigger, and then it plateaus again. But the problem is, those highs are so very high, and it's such a weird position to have all this new attention and validation for all of your work, that the plateaus actually feel like lulls, and it feels like you're going down. So even when things are, you've gone up and you're staying directly there, even though that's perfect, that's because you can still move up from there, you see yourself as going down. And when my show's done, and when I've been the fucking show, I just sit there with nothing. I go, what if I forgot how to fucking do it? And this job is my fucking life, man. Yeah. And if I can't do this, and if I'm not only if I can't do this, but if I'm not one of the best, I'll be miserable.
Yeah. Well, I think, and what it goes to, and I went through this just now with like that, I guess you could say high, but I don't look at it as a high anymore. I look at it as like, it was really tough for me to be killing in obscurity for a while. And then all of a sudden now people, people knew. If you knew comedy, you knew me. And like you said, I had a Comedy Central special in 2018. And if you were a comedy nerd, you knew. But now with the Netflix thing and other things happening, but you start to feel like, oh man, everybody's starting to say, man, like you broke
so vindicating.
It's vindicating. But what you were saying about you're so afraid, and this is just my opinion, but it's why you're great, and it's why you're going to continue to be great, because people like us who keep the standard, we keep the standard high, and it hurts us mentally. The pressure, we're hurting ourselves, and it's a lot to be like, hey, I got to be better. And like you said, if the next one is as good or better, that's what does it. And we know that. Now there's the other type of guy or woman who gets that high and they're like, oh, I'm the shit, I'm good. That's a slippery slope, where you and I can do something great and put something out there, but we know, like, all right, man, let's enjoy this for a second, but we got
back to work.
But don't do it so much where you hurt yourself and can't enjoy, because that's like when this happened, my manager and wife said the same thing to me. They said, Paul, are you enjoying it? Can you enjoy it? And I was like, yeah, but like, I gotta get on a plane now and do this. And then I was going to San Diego, and it was the first, and this feeling, you probably know this feeling as good as anybody, especially with the amount of work that you put out. But I go to San Diego, people are reaching out the week after the Netflix special drop. People are hitting me up on socials going, hey man, so should we come or should we watch? Are you doing the same material? And I'm like, no, like I'm doing a new hour. You're going to see a new hour. But in my mind, I'm like, I got to stay in the hotel and make sure I got this shit,
Yeah. One of the other difficulties of, when you progress in comedy, I think there is a point where really, really good comics don't necessarily become shit. I don't think that's fair, but they definitely plateau material wise or slightly regress because they get so successful that they lose the ability to play to a neutral audience. Yeah. Right. The reason you become really, really good when you're starting out is because you're going on stage and nobody knows who you are. And so they don't know you're funny, so they don't fucking trust you to be funny. So you have to be funny as fuck to get them on your side. The first 10 minutes of your fucking set is making sure people get your sense of humor.
Like you, trust you, right.
Exactly. You go through all that stuff and, you know, and you become a little bit successful, but you can always find a neutral audience. So there is a point when you get so successful, and thankfully, I don't think I'm anywhere near this yet, but you do get to a point when, you know, people like Chappelle can never play to a neutral audience. And that must be so infinitely more challenging because you do need people that don't enjoy your comedy. You do need people that don't trust your ability to get you to get them to laugh, because that makes you work so much harder. There needs to be fucking resistance so that, you know, if gym machines had no fucking weights on them, they'd be useless. And that's what being at the top of your game in comedy is. It's a fucking weightless weight machine.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's like, and for a long time, and you just actually made me think about why he does this, but I've talked to people that go, yeah, man, Chappelle just came in the club, but like, he's not doing jokes. He's just talking. And it's almost probably because he kind of wants that, like, let me see what I can do and try to figure it out, because like, he's probably in his mind going, if I just go up here and do bits like that, like they all love me anyway, everything's going to work. Yeah. Maybe he's saying, let me just kind of test the waters and just start talking some shit and see. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Man, and it's a good way to do it. And the confidence of that is something in itself that will bring an audience onto your side. Like if you can, and if you can meander, and I'm not to say that Chappelle fucking meanders, but if you can, you know, just be on stage and just talk with no impending punchline and still captivate the fucking audience and have them there, that is a sign of their immense trust in you to go somewhere with it. Because, you know, I don't know how, well, I mean, I do know how it is in the States, but in the UK, like I often find it's the first 3 minutes. If you don't make the audience laugh in the first 3 minutes in the UK, you are fucking done. There's nothing. It's over. Get off stage. Otherwise enjoy the next 17 minutes of hell. In America, because I think, and I'm going to generalize 300 million people here, so excuse me.
Yeah.
But just compared to the UK, Americans do seem a bit more trusting. And like when you walk on stage in America, I find people are just there like, why would this be bad? Like, you know, hey, we're here. I think like in the UK, you've got 3 minutes. In America, you could do 5 minutes of shit and still get them in the end, because I don't know whether it's a sense of self, because the other thing I find about American audiences, which is really different to the rest of the world, is Americans are able to laugh as individuals. Like if in the UK you're doing a fucking joke and like 50% of the room don't like it, the other 50% won't laugh because they don't want to stand out and be one of the people laughing when nobody else is laughing, because that's not how you do things in Britain. Whereas America, if you're on stage and there's 100 people in the audience and 97 of them hate you, those 3 people are going to be loud as fuck.
And you play to them.
Yeah, and they love it. They couldn't give a shit. Yeah. The fact that 97 people hate it makes it funnier to them. They're like, they fucking hate this. Keep going.
Yeah, that's so cool. You know what? I'm actually making sure this works. I'm actually going to be for the first time ever, I'm going to be performing in London. I've never been out there. Oh, wow. And I'm going out there I'm doing a small venue out there because the Giants are playing the Packers. In London, the way the NFL does that. So I'm doing the Soho Theater.
Oh, great, man. Soho's a beautiful theater. Yeah. And there's about 4 or 5 different like rooms in there of different sizes, but it's in like the good heart of London. It's, you know, off Broadway. The crowds are really good, and each room in it, and the staff there are so fucking sound. You'll have a great time.
Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to going there. But it is funny how like you travel. Like I did. Because you do it all over the place, which is wild. But the last time I ever worked with Bill Burke, I opened for Bill on and off. I mean, he's a West Coast guy. I'm an East Coast guy, but we're so, such good friends. And like the last time we worked together was probably, almost 5 years ago. We did Europe and we did his Europe trip. And it was like, we did Estonia and Latvia. And those two places, like stand-up was introduced. Like we literally got there, like, yeah, stand-up's been around for like 8 years here. And I was like, what? And they were watching it differently. And what people don't realize about, like, especially Germany or like traveling out of the States and performing, they watch a bit in Germany. At least we got this sense. Yeah. Both of us did. They watch a bit like a scene of a movie.
Yes.
Right. So they're watching it. And then you think like in the middle where you're hitting things, you're like, oh shit, I hope they're liking it. And then at the end, they'll do this. Where in the States, you could just say the premise and they're fucking laughing. And I know that, like, you go to like,
they're translating in their head a lot as well. Like,
yes.
you've got to put, you really have to understand how fucking impressive it is to listen to comedy in a second fucking language and like understand the puns, nuances, turns of phrases, all these callbacks, very interesting things. So there is this bit where like they feel that if they laugh too loud, they're going to miss the next word, and every word is important. So you do have to just slow down a fucking bit and go and let them have the laugh. I mean, Lithuania. So I think you worked with the same guys we worked with out there, because it's the guys that essentially started the Lithuanian comedy scene. A guy called Paulius. First time we did Lithuania, at this point I've not done any Netflixes or HBOs. It's just like, I think I've done 3 or 4 Conan spots, and I go on, my support act Kai Humphries goes on, fucking obliterates. Like they've never seen anything like it. Stand-up's not been there much. They can't believe you're there. I go on, do a mild bit of audience interaction, just commenting on Vilnius, and they all laugh. And then I do one of my best bits, and it just like titters, just real mild subdued reaction. So I make a joke about the joke not going well, and that gets a round of applause. So I'm like, okay, so they're ready to laugh. Okay, so I'm like, okay, let's hit them with another big fucking hit. And I do a second one of my best jokes. Same thing, just people, ha. And I make this similar comment, they fucking clap at that and laugh. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, every improv off the cuff bit smashing, every bit of pre-written material's going terribly. And a guy in the front row just put his hand up very slowly. And I went, yeah. And he went, anything you've done on television, any material that is online, every single person in this room has watched repeatedly, because they don't have stand-up there. The way they've learned stand-up is, especially with the younger generation fan, they just consume British and American sitcoms and British and American stand-up on YouTube, on fucking, because that's how they learn comedy. That's how they learn English. That's, when you're getting to that's how they would learn like all the colloquialisms, the little fun things we say to each other. They watch all of that. So anything you've done online, they're like, seen it. So I just had to do new, and all of my new stuff fucking ripped because they don't know any better.
Right. So that's kind of funny, because when I was out there, I remember they were like, hey, Paul, we want to have you come out here and headline, but we need some clips, because they said the clips out here for, especially for like an American comic who they don't really know, and it's everywhere, they'll come. But that's interesting that you said, and that's the thing. Like, I know some people were like, because comedy was different in the 80s and 90s, where when you watched a special, you kind of were like hoping to see some of it, like a band. Right. Yeah. Where now I feel like with so many online clips and so many there people that it just gets beaten to their head. They're almost like, that's why people in San Diego were going, hey, Paul, are you going to do new stuff? But I almost feel like you have to. And I know some comics listen to this podcast, but like, if you put out an hour on Netflix, which is globally streaming.
Oh, the show's dead. The show's dead.
The show has got to be dead, man. It's got to be dead. I know some people are like, oh, I'm going to try. And I was actually speaking to who was it? I think I was speaking to Bill Burr, and he goes, yeah, my special's coming out in July. He goes, but it's all good because I'm covered. And I go, well, what do you mean you're covered? And he goes, I have the next hour. And I go, yeah. I go, my special came out a couple of weeks ago. I go, I think I got the hour. And he was just like, Virzi, come on, man. All I hear is excuse, like joking. And then I go to San Diego and I did over 60 minutes brand new. And I'm like, and you know what, Daniel, they appreciate it. Like they go like, hey man, like, I don't know how I never heard any of that. And it's like, well, yeah, that's what the work is. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, but when they see you live, like when they see you live, they want to see the new stuff, because the joy of comedy, the thing that the audience, one of the many things the audience loves about it is, this is unique. This is just us, just in this room. This isn't being done anywhere else. Even if we're on tour, we can lie to ourselves and say, you know, he's never said this before. The big con of stand-up comedy is convincing the audience that this is the first time you've said any of these things, and it's occurring to you in the moment. So they want to experience that in the room. So they want to see new stuff when they see you live. But what I have found, especially with the fucking Netflix stuff, people will absolutely rewatch comedy. I mean, I've watched comedy from a fucking young age. I watch Bar specials repeatedly. I watch Bo Burnham specials at least twice a year. I'll go back to favorite specials I like, and just because sometimes it's nice to be in a joke where you know where it's going and you just love it. So I think there's this myth, people don't like hearing the same joke twice. You're like, man, have you ever met a fucking comedian? Like, we like the same joke repackaged over and over again. That's what our fucking banter is. It's who can get in there fucking first. You know, laughter can be beautiful in the moment, but it can also take you back to a time when you were also laughing at that thing. And it's like a really fun nostalgia for a lot of people.
I agree, man. I was just the other night, I just was watching Eddie Murphy Raw, and that's what I was a little kid. My dad took me when I was 10. That's a reason I do this. And just watching him do Italians leaving the Rocky movie, man, even that long ago, like the way he really knows how Italian kids act and the way he could change his voice and the way he puts you in the scene, man, like like off the movie line, trying to start a fight. I can watch a good bit, the same bit. I'll just go to it sometimes. You know what? Another thing I go to sometimes is, and I know this sounds crazy to say because it's so much longer, and I did appreciate it then, but dude, Sacha Baron Cohen, Borat now, when I watched the chances that he took and some of the people that he actually said, I should also say the Ali G show, not just Borat, but like Ali G and all that. He
put his life on the line like a bunch of times.
Dude, some of those things, like now that I'm like, wait a minute, he's sitting down with the Secretary of Defense of the United States during the Vietnam War, asking him if any time during the conflict did he ever think about switching sides. And I go like, that's the craziest, like, and it's like an HBO show. So like that guy thinks it's real. And I'm going like, so I could watch shit like that. That's the beauty about what we do. But I want to talk to you about some personal shit now. Are you a father?
Yes, I am. Yes, I have a 5-month-old son.
Congratulations, dude. And I can tell you this, man. I can honestly tell you this. I have a 13-year-old boy and a 10-year-old little girl. And all of the things that matter to you in comedy, which still will, but trust me, when that little boy gets to a certain place, you're going to still work as hard. You're going to still be a psycho with everything that you do and the progression of your stuff. And you'll still be competitive and want to be great. But what you're going to do, unless you're a complete sociopath, which I don't know that yet.
Well, I have a show called Socio about whether or not I was a sociopath.
Okay. Well, then this comment could be whatever, scrap, but no, you'll work smarter. So what you'll do is like, and pandemic let me know that, like, you know, getting up on a Tuesday night to run to New York City to go to the Comedy Cellar or the Stand for a little bit of money to do 12 minutes and leave my family. Really, I learned, I'm like, oh no, man, I'm not going to be on a hamster wheel and just do shit like a robot because that's what's supposed to be done. And then pandemic let me realize I was off for, just like a bunch of us, I was off for 5 months. Luckily, I had COVID early, so I got antibodies. I was able to go out and go to places. But yeah, like now what I do is, because my kids, man, the time, dude, if I'm being honest, I actually called, I was going through something. Everything was like, I was coming down from everything and just going through the mental shit that we go through, right?
Yeah.
And I called Stacy, my wife, and I wasn't crying or anything, but I was tired and like emotional. Like I was just kind of
Yeah, but she can hear in your voice that you're about to cry.
She like it wasn't a cry, but it was like, oh, his body is spent, he's exhausted, and he's thinking. And it's an emotional thing. And I called her up and she could hear my voice. And I said, Stace, I said, I didn't miss any of their big things, did I? I didn't miss like when they were playing ball or they were doing it. And she was like, no, you really made it a point. And there are certain games that after a while, but I always made sure like the first one I made, like, and the cool thing is your son, the first couple of years, you're good because you're
they don't
good.
Remember like I always think my first memory that I have is like 4.5 years old. I've got until then, like you can be whatever you want in front of your kid at that point.
No, unless your kid is how fucking weird would that be if your kid was like 19 and he's like, yeah, I was 18 months and you're like, what?
Yeah. I remember the smell of weed when I was 6 months old. You're like, oh, that's not.
This is the smartest baby ever. No, but you're gonna it's an amazing thing, and I really think it's important for comedians. I mean, people live their life how they want to, but what I've really found and what I've seen is that when you have a family and you have a child and you do this, I believe you're gonna get better. I believe your hours too are just gonna, because not like that comics haven't talked about having kids, but your perspective of it and your vision of what raising a child should be and what your son is doing, all of that stuff, and your paranoia and fucked up thoughts, that's going to all translate into really amazing stuff and relatable stuff. And the worst thing is when I see people get older and they're like, that they kind of wished. I don't want to mention names, but I could tell you this. I opened for a guy at the Atlanta Punchline years ago, and he was just like, guy's known and been doing comedy a long time. He's just staring at this red wine glass. And it's just like, yeah, man, I almost married her. And I just remember looking at it, dude. And it was a fucking lonely, it was a really kind of like, fuck, man. Like you could tell and you could kind of see. And I'm not saying the dude's not happy, and I'm not saying
but this is a lonely ass job sometimes. It's like people always see the hour when you're on stage. They see like the hour afterwards where you're drinking or taking photos, and they see the stuff you put on Instagram of all the fun things you do. What they don't see are the other 22 hours in the day, which is in a shitty small fucking hotel room with crappy fucking Wi-Fi by yourself.
100%.
They don't see you being at a fucking airport queuing up like fucking cattle, eating shit fucking every day, barely being able to go there. You're texting people from home and you're on Instagram and you can see your friends having fun. You can see your partner, having fun, and you're just there going, I love this job so much. Of course I fucking do. And this is the groundwork, but it's so unbelievably lonely. Even with a fucking support act, it can be fucking lonely because it's isolating.
It is, man. And like, we're moody people and we go through things that people don't know we go through. And some days are up and some days are down, and we just do our best to do that. So I'm congratulations on being a dad, man. That's going to be amazing. And 5 months is amazing. So we got a couple minutes left here. This thing is saying that time is I have a few minutes left and I need to upgrade. And I don't know, I've never had that before.
Well, we can. Do you want to stop and then call back?
So what I'll do is, if this thing, whatever happens in the next couple of minutes, we'll do it again, and then I'll have my producer slice it together.
Great.
If they don't know about better, but it's funny how like you say that. Yeah, these dumb fucks don't.
I don't know.
Yeah, I got to produce it. No. So what is it like for you, I guess, to be in the UK, then be in Florida, then be in Australia? So it's like, because I know in the States, it's like, oh, okay, the people in Texas are a certain way. I saw that you like Texas, or Florida. I love going there. But then you go out to LA and that's a different thing. But it's all in the States. You're doing some shit where you're going like, hey, I'm going to be in London, but then I'm going to be in, do you ever go to Asia or no?
Yeah, man. So on the X tour where I lost my fucking mind, the particular stint of the tour where I went genuinely insane was 12 months in. Oh no, I think it was 13 or 14 months into the tour. We went from a place just outside London after the show, flew to Japan, did a show that day, flew to Singapore, flew to, what's the other one? You did another Asian one. They'll come back to me later on. From there, went to Australia, was there for 3 weeks, and then flew to Iceland, to Norway, to Sweden, and man, it was hell. It was absolute hell on earth because
wow.
Because man, there was just no time to exist. It was just I didn't know who I was anymore because for 24 hours a day I was the comedian Daniel Sloss, and that's somebody that fucking travels, does the photos, drinks after the show, goes to the next fucking.
All right, we're back. We had a quick little thing here. But so you were saying it was hell going to like all those places in Asia and all that stuff.
The hell in the fact that, I mean, already at this point, I'd been away for home for 3 months. And again, I'm not doing, this is all my own doing. I was the one that said yes, all these fucking tour shows. Like an argument could be made that maybe my manager should have looked at the schedule and went, this would kill a man. But, strike while the iron's hot. I'd always been a fucking grafter, get your head down, do the work. I was drinking too much. I was smoking too much fucking weed. I wasn't fucking exercising, eating healthy. And I was just so run down. And the bit that was worse about it was the one escape every single day, no matter how miserable it was, is the hour to 90 minutes where I'm on stage and I get to do my favorite thing in the world, and that's to make people laugh. But for the first time in my career, I was so resentful of the audience because the only reason I was there was because they were there. And I would never cancel a show. And I know I'd never fucking cancel a show. So I'm obviously going to do the fucking show. But if none of them turned up, it would have been the greatest thing in the world to me. And then that thought of like, God, you walking on stage being like, I don't want to be here, made me so much sadder because I've always loved my job. I'm one of the, it's a privilege to truly love what you do. And to not love it, was horrible. And then I was just like, oh my, I'm a monster. Like I've gotten all the success that I ever fucking wanted. I'm touring Japan, I'm touring Australia, and typical fucking white boy can't enjoy his fucking success. Like, oh, I'm miserable now. I've got everything and it was just this vicious cycle in my head where I was punishing myself for the way I was feeling. I was hating how because I felt ungrateful. That's how it sort of manifested in my brain. And, I am so grateful to every single person that comes to every single one of my shows because, I've wanted to do this since I was a kid. And the fact that I do get to do it, I try my hardest every time I'm on stage to make sure there's 30 seconds in the show where I just stop and I just enjoy the fact that somehow little old me is playing fucking theaters. But I couldn't at this point. And because the show itself that I was doing was about sexual assault and rape and the Me Too thing. And it was quite a personal show and obviously quite a dark show with a lot of fucking sad bits in it. And it got to the point where there was a safe way to maneuver through the material. Like when you're dealing with heavy topics, it's like, I always describe it like walking through a minefield safely. Like once you know the route to get to the other side, don't fucking take a different route, right? Don't risk stepping off to the side. I don't agree with that all the time, but in this particular show, I was like, I can't veer off of this. I've got a particular message that I have to fucking deliver here. And that made me stop being a comedian because there was a point in the tour where I knew the show back to fucking front and I could have done it with my eyes closed. And I did. I would go on stage drunk. I would, like, one show, I think in Australia, I was so miserable, but before I walked on stage in front of my support act, I took the biggest hit of a weed vape in my life. Just like fucking sucked for 30 seconds. I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm in robot mode, and I would go and nothing happened. There was no negative effects. I still smashed the show because I was just so ingrained into me to be able to perform it in that way. And that's not what being a comedian is. That's an actor. And I've got nothing against actors. I enjoy acting, but I want to be a comedian and I am a comedian. And to not feel like that, to feel that I'd basically, given up the thing I loved so much, which wasn't true. This is how I just felt at the time. Felt like I'd given up this passion, given up this love, and then to feel so ungrateful for, the most success I'd ever experienced. But man, by the end of it, I was just like, it's only now, like after fucking 2.5 years of therapy, that when I now when I look back at the X tour, I can look at it with positive memories. I can look back and go, oh my God, I was in Japan, and it was fun. You know, we did have, you know, times where we went out drinking after the show. I got to eat the fucking local food. I met the locals. We had laughs with them. I can't believe I got to play Iceland. I can't believe I got to play Russia before they were the Nazis. What, like, how exciting is that?
So when you say you resented it and you hated when you walked out there, was that just because, why was that?
Because I'd been away from home for 18 months.
Okay, so you just I
was so home, and there was nothing I could do to fix or at least this is what I convinced myself. There was nothing I could do to fix myself on the road. I was like, this is the way I'm living now, and that is drinking half a bottle of whiskey on stage, smoking weed through the day, maybe eating one meal, not meditating, not talking to a therapist, and not exercising, and, you know, barely even talking to who I'm on tour with. I'm just close myself off. And so I knew the only place I would be able to recover was at home. I just needed time off. I knew I needed time off, but I knew there was 2 more months of the tour. And had somebody else on my behalf cancelled that tour, I don't think I would have stopped kissing them their feet. But nobody would have suggested that to me, and I would never have suggested myself, because, you know, in this job, it can always feel like what you've achieved can be taken away from you. So I had that fear as well. Like, if I don't do this now, I might never get to it again. This might be me.
Right. You were almost like a slave to the dream at that point, you were like a slave to the dream and didn't realize that, like, maybe shutting it down for yourself was actually in the long run probably better. But you still stuck it out. I want to ask you too about the drinking. So you're able to, like, so you can get hammered on stage and be fine.
No, not now. And it depends where I am in the tour. Like, there's always a point where, you know, when you're starting a comedy, when you're starting with new jokes, I don't really drink on stage then. Occasionally, after I've done the jokes a couple of times, I might go on stage a little bit high just to see if my mind can find any of the roots. And then I might have a drink on stage, because, man, it calms me down and it makes me slow down. It makes me bide my time. It gives me, and it's so composed. It's a very subtle statement to the audience of how confident you are. I'm taking the weapon out of the fucking game. I'm going to put a drink in my mouth for, 10 seconds, and none of you are going to say anything, because I'm in fucking charge. That's how confident I am. I can drink. So there's, and then once I've done the show a bunch of times, there gets a point when I start getting bored of the material. So, and this is a very unhealthy thing that I learned on the X tour. When I would go on stage too stoned or too drunk, I would have that thing in my head where I'd go, "You're too drunk," or "You're too high." Like your mind's wandering.
You're playing with your mind. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so fucked. And it made me so focus on the show, because when I'm sober, I can think about 1,000 other things and I'm not in the moment, because it's, it's press play, say the fuck. But when I was too drunk and I was worried about being shit to that audience, I focused on every joke. I did every fucking act. I made sure that, I was thinking about the next act. It kept me fucking present. And that's not a good habit to build up, because now, when I'm confident in a show, sometimes I go, yeah, man, you know what, let's make this more challenging. Let's go on stage drunk and see if I do fuck up something, and can I save myself from that? Or does being sillier give me the courage to go further with this joke than I normally would? Does being stoned make me more empathetic in this joke? I know I'm quite harsh, but if I'm high while I tell it and I don't have the ability to be angry, does it make me tell it in a different way? And is that way funny?
Yeah. And do you record your sets? You listen back or no?
When I'm starting out, when I'm writing the material, every single show, and I'll listen to it on the car ride home. Like, it's very weird. I can listen back to my own stand-up regularly, like I will, because it reminds me of the jokes, and when you repeat jokes over and over again, you can see where the holes are, and you see punchlines that you didn't really realize were there before. But if you and me are in a room and I hear you watching my stand-up, I will break my fucking neck then and there.
Right.
Like I just can't.
Yeah. So you can do it yourself, but you can't have other people. Yeah.
No, because when I'm watching myself, I'm not watching myself or listening to myself to be entertained. I'm only there with critical mind. I'm only there to go, no, yes, longer, shorter, not good, too harsh, whatever, and do the fucking brain math of like the science of how to make this joke work. And because I know my performance so well and I know my abilities, when I see myself half-arse a joke or fuck up a line or not deliver something in the way that I know I can deliver it, I'm like, idiot, that was too fast. Why didn't you let them laugh at that fucking joke for longer? Take a fucking drink, breathe, stop interrupting them. And if somebody else is, they're just enjoying it. They're like, ha ha. And I'm like, I'm shit. This is awful.
Yeah. No, it's I can, like you said, I can listen to myself alone in my hotel room, but it's only for the joke, and it's only to see what I added. Oh, like I added that tonight. Let me listen back and make sure, especially, as like you said too, especially when you're building a new hour. When you're building a new hour, sometimes when I'm not building a new hour, I'll record a long set, but rarely listen back unless I know that there was a moment. Yeah. That's why I love when clubs send you. Isn't it great when clubs send you the clips, dude? And you're like, now you could just sit, you could watch, you could see the interaction. You get great clips from crowd work and stuff. But I feel like listening to myself or watching myself is really hard. Like I barely watched because I took a lot of part in the editing of my special. Yeah. But after that, dude, like I'll kind of go through it quick. I just hate watching it. I hate the way I look.
Do you have any like tics on stage that you weren't aware of until you watched yourself back? Was there anything that you went, oh fuck, do I do that?
Yeah, I think like there's definitely some things that I noticed with my body, or like when I walk towards the stool, or when I was editing Jigsaw, I realized, and it's excruciating. Every time I would go for a drink, for some reason I would suck before. Oh, no, that wasn't it. No. I sometimes just randomly after a joke, that was it. I'd take a drink and I'd go, and it was, and the editor pointed it out to me, just pointed it out once. He went, oh, that was a weird noise. And I went, what weird noise? And he took it back, and I go, da-da-da-da-da-da, punchline. Yeah.
Motherfucker, when I tell you I did this after every fucking joke, I was like, cut, we have to go through each joke and get rid of that fucking bit, because...
Yeah, sometimes I try to but here's the thing that I did notice too. When you do an hour and it's good and it gets good reviews and you're happy with it, your team is happy with it, and the reviews are good, I'll let them say that, right? People will be, oh, the lighting was weird, or, Paul walks around a lot. And I'm like, listen, if that's what you're going to say, then fuck, like I'll take that. If it's, oh, I hate this joke, or that's not funny, or this and that was a simple joke, I saw that coming, that's what would really hurt me. But if it's other things like that, those are things. But I know what you mean. Like you hear yourself suck in before a drink, and then now that's in your head, and by the second or third time you hear it 1,000 times.
Yeah. Also, man, I fucking hate when people say shit like, oh man, that joke was predictable. You're like, motherfucker, but it was still sometimes you have to understand, sometimes the jokes are just for me. Sometimes, in every one of my shows, there's two jokes which never get the laugh they fucking deserve. And the reason I will not take those jokes out of the show is because I have watched stand-up comedy since I was 7 years old, and I have performed it for 15 years now. I know more about comedy than anyone in my fucking audience. There's no competition. I know more about it, and I love talking shop. I love breaking down why jokes are funny. I love working out why things are offensive in the science of fucking jokes. So sometimes I just like to put jokes in there, and when the audience doesn't laugh, I know that joke's funny, so it fucking stays. It might not get the reaction it deserves, but it stays in for me. And it might not be clever, and it might not be the smartest bit, but it doesn't fucking have to be. That's why I thought Adam Sandler's hour was, I loved that hour so much, because that was just a comedian who went on stage and went, this job is going on stage and being silly and making people laugh. And he didn't pretend it was anything else. And so many comedians, I don't know how it was over there, but in the UK, when Adam Sandler released a special, there were a lot of people like, oh, this will be good. Oh, like, what will this be? And I'll be honest, because, man, I grew up with Adam Sandler movies, so I love him. So I was going to watch it anyway. But even I had a little bit of, I'm like, oh, I mean, how funny is he going to be now? He's done, he's not done stand-up for years. He's done movies. And then I watched it, and for the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, man, this is really silly. And then by about minute 7 or 8, I went, oh, this is really silly. And that's it. And that's how you're meant to enjoy it, is to just sit back. And all comedy's different. And that's why I get so upset when you hear people say, I don't like stand-up comedy. I'm like, you do. You've just not seen your favorite comedian yet.
100%. And I thought the Adam Sandler thing was great. I thought that it was, dude, that Chris Farley thing got me bad, man. Dude,
it came out of fucking nowhere. What an asshole. I fucking sobbed. I'm like, the last time Adam Sandler made me cry, to be fair, I cry at the end of Click every time. So Adam Sandler's got my heartstrings.
Adam Sandler has a way of kind of similar, like Judd, if you notice, like Judd Apatow does. Adam Sandler actually said this about Judd Apatow, where their movies are funny, but there's these heavy moments of reality. Sandler, dude, like he just has a way of being like this nice, vulnerable guy who like doesn't care. But when if I ever get a chance to meet him and talk to him, and I have a lot of, we have a lot of mutual friends, but if I would literally say to him, I swear to God, I'm going to say to him, I'll be like, dude, I'll be honest with you. I'm a fan of all your shit from when I was younger. But dude, that song you did for Farley, that was one of the heaviest, nicest, most beautiful things I've ever seen in this business, dude. And like the fact that you honored him, years later like that, and you did it on SNL, you did it in your special. But dude, like the words you said, it just hit me hard, man.
There was one bit, and I can't remember the line, but it was about Chris Farley's dad crying at the funeral. And I'm just there going, what the fuck? Like, motherfucker, you were doing jokes about stomping on grapes 45 fucking minutes ago. Farley is definitely the best song in it because of all the reasons you just said. But I also really like the final song he did, the one where he made fun of Rotten Tomatoes for giving him shit. But it was just about how much he loves his wife. And it was just something so fucking refreshing. And I'm getting it from you as well. One of the oldest tropes in comedy, and one that I'm so fucking bored of, not even just in comedy, but in the world, is, oh, I hate my partner. Because you're just like, what? But why?
Yeah.
Like you don't like, like, don't be wrong, they can annoy you. You can get in arguments, all the natural fucking thing, but you don't like being with your partner most of the time. Like you're that open and accepting of you just made the wrong decision. Like, man, I love my fiance. She's so funny. She fucking gets me. Like, I'd much rather hang out with her than a fucking audience, but I love my job. So, I'll go to hear Adam Sandler just do a song where it was just like, yeah, man, I love my fucking wife and I love my kids. And you just go, oh, good. Yes.
Yeah. I'm working on this thing in the new hour where I'm just talking about how amazing women are. Like my daughter and my wife, like when I'm like how strong they are, how fucking lost we would be with that. Dude, my little girl is 10 years old. And I swear to God, Daniel, she's going to take care of me one day. Like she's gonna be
way sooner than you think. And way sooner than she'd like.
Yeah, she's gonna be like, she's like this nurturing. And when you watch that, and I agree with you, like, listen, there are some things, like my wife is if you knew my wife and you knew me really personally, my wife is so fucking just like, we're gonna get it done militantly. Like everyone's afraid of her. Like even my friends that come over, they're like, dude, Stacey's not yelling at me. She's one of those. So of course I'll talk about it. But in the grand scheme of things, the woman in your life it should be awesome. Like, how cool is it to sit with the fucking smart, intellectual woman? You go to a movie, you sit down after the movie, they break the movie down. Like sometimes my wife sees things in a movie that I'm just like, oh my God, yeah. Like I saw it too, but you're just like, we're both seeing it. But dude, yeah, women are like, so I like that angle than the other way,
Yeah, well, I think because, I mean, don't get me wrong, for so long, comedy and it has been about attacking things and bringing things down, and I don't think that should change. I think, that was the fucking original point of comedy, comes from the darkest situations because it's the only thing that makes you feel human during the fucking worst times, and I don't think that comedy should ever go away. But you can have really good fucking positive comedy, man. I got to fucking tell you. So, growing up watching comedy in the UK, I had never heard of and I watched a lot of American stand-up. I'd never heard of or seen Brian Regan, right? Never. He wasn't on any TV shows over here. He wasn't on any of the American stand-up shows I watched. And I started doing comedy in America, and everyone's talking about how great Brian Regan is. Brian Regan's one of the best. And like bars mention it. I mean, comedians I'm working with, they're like, he's one of the best. And I keep hearing that he's a clean comic. And I'm like, absolutely not a fucking chance. There's no way one of the best comics in the world doesn't swear and doesn't use profane fucking. There's just no fucking way. You can't be funny unless you're fucking edgy in at least some fucking way. And then I've Been to the Moon, and my fucking God, I just sat there going,
dude,
I don't know this was, how's he doing this? I've sworn more watching this than he has in the entire fucking thing.
I put him in the top 10 of all time.
Easy.
I put him in the top 10, and I've actually become friends with him. We have the same manager. So we went out to dinner. One of the nicest, truly nicest human beings you will ever meet, to the point where you're almost like, is this serious? Like he's so nice and great, Daniel, that you're almost like, is he fucking with me? Is this a joke? Because he's that nice and he's so complimentary of that. And he'll tell you, do you want something to drink? He's just the best. But dude, I was going to do a joke, and I always tell people this, and I'll keep repeating it, but I was going to do a joke. I got upgraded to first class. This is probably like, I want to say 9-10 years ago, whatever, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, I got upgraded the first time, first class, and I could not believe how I was treated, right? I couldn't believe how much better I was treated, right? So I just was like, I want to write a joke about this, but there's no way that this hasn't been done. So let me just Google, like, comedian talks about first class. And there's a 7-minute and 21-second bit of Regan from when you get to your gate. I'm talking, you're waiting to board until you board, when you get your drink, when you get this, the people. And dude, it is 7 minutes and 21 seconds, and a minute 40 in, I have tears coming down my face. I'm crying, laughing. He's not cursing, to the point where I'm like,
he's not even being rude.
No, he's not even
like, it's not like he's making fart noises or sex jokes or being fucking filthy. He's talking about everyday fucking things and not swear. He's angry. He's emotional about these things, but it doesn't hurt anyone. And like, I couldn't.
And it's so true. And like, when the lady at the gate goes like, please just wait for your group to be called and come up in a, orderly fashion. And then he goes, but these people here, everybody rushed the door. Now, another comedian would be like, you fucking farm animals, right? Like, they would just go visceral. He has a way of doing it innocent. You know what he means. We all know what he means, but he does it in this innocent way. And dude, I was like, man, he hit everything about boarding a plane. I was like, you could never do that joke again. But
you can't even do that topic anymore, because he's picked all the fucking berries. It's an empty tree.
It's an empty tree is right. And it's like, to be that funny, because the last time I laughed like that was somebody who cursed. Okay.
Of course.
My heroes are Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, all these, now you look at the guys today, Chappelle and Burr and Louis and all these guys, they curse, they walk around, they say the way they want to say it. I curse, you curse, right? It's like, but for him to be that good without it that's why I put him, dude. He's the tops.
Yeah, man, it would be like going to a restaurant and the best meal you've ever had in your life was vegan. You're just like, fucking what?
Dude,
there's no fucking way.
That is the greatest analogy of Brian Regan. It's perfect. It's like you love meat, you love steaks. Yeah. You
Of
love
course.
beef, whatever you got. And then all of a sudden they're like, I know you love that. Try this.
Yeah.
And you're like,
no way,
away.
it's not going to be good. I don't want to eat your fucking courgette spaghetti. Oh my God.
It's really, that's the beauty of comedy. The beauty of comedy is you can have somebody that you never saw coming. Even a style. You ever watch a comedy or a comic that like, you don't even like their style. It's not your thing, but then you'll hear a joke and go, oh my God, that person's brilliant. Like that's the beauty of our job, is that like you can literally, because it's subjective, right? Comedy's subjective. So you could go, I don't like how the guy stays in one place. I don't like how there's really no stories here. I don't like anything like, or I don't like the boom setup punch. And or I shouldn't say I don't like, it's not my style. And then you watch 2 bits and you're like, oh my God, this is fucking incredible. Like that's what I love what we do.
Oh, I love the fact that, our job. And I mean, this is one of the things that makes you have all the self-doubts when you work with so many fucking talented people who are so fucking funny. It's always laugh and then, oh fuck, it's always I gotta get fucking better. Like everyone knows the most egocentric thing about fucking comedians is if I were to put you in a room of like, let's say 400 people, right, and there were 4 comics up the back, and you're killing this gig, you're killing this fucking gig, the audience is loving you, no matter how hard you rip that, I guarantee when you hear the 4 comics at the back laugh at a joke and nobody else laugh, that's when you're like, and that's the best bit. Yeah. For the 4 comedians laughing is worth 80,000 punters laughing.
When you go up to somebody, I went up to somebody at the stand. She was like a younger comic. She's coming up, she's getting spots. And I just thought that the way she took the room, I thought the way her presence was, I thought the way she just commanded and the way she wasn't afraid to jump into a topic that could make some people go, wow. And I just went up to her afterwards and I go, hey, that was fucking, and I could tell it like, you always get lifted up. I was actually, when I was talking, I did Joe Rogan's podcast and we were talking about how when a comedian says to you, you're funny. Like I do. Like I remember a comedian go. I remember Louis saw me at the Cellar and was like, "Oh, that joke is good." Or when somebody was like, "Hey, Burr said you were a beast on his podcast," and what that does to your psyche, especially when, like you said before, Dan, you have ups and downs mentally. You're in a hotel room. You don't know if how things are going, and you hope it's going good, and you sticking to it. Those things lift you up, man, and to have that is incredible.
Yeah, it's the best.
So, man, I could talk to you forever, dude. This has been great. Do you have anything that coming up that you can tell? Anything in the States or?
Yeah, so I'm writing my new show, Can't, which I'm doing next week at the Edinburgh Festival for a month. So hopefully by the end of that, I'll have more than I have now. I'll have about an hour. I'm going to New York. I'm doing the Soho Playhouse out there for 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
To basically just get the show in some more shape. Also, at some point this year, I will be releasing 3 of my specials just on my website. I'm releasing X, Socio, and the one I just did, Hubris. So just check out for that.
Yeah, it's Daniel Sloss, everybody. I will be in London, October 7th at the Soho Theater. And I think I'm going to make a little European family trip with that. I'm also going to be at the Philadelphia Punchline September 19th and the DC Improv September 20th or reversed, but 19th and 20th that way. And I'm going to be in Pennsylvania at Soul Joe's in September. All the dates are on paulvirzi.com. Check out my YouTube channel. Also the Anything Better podcast that I co-host with Bill Burr, and my special Nocturnal Admission streaming right now on Netflix. Daniel, man, such a pleasure to have you, to talk to you, and for what you've done, for the amount of work that you put out there for your age, and managing to get a little boy all at the same time, man. You're crushing it. I'd love to have you on more. And when you come to New York, definitely look me up. Okay.
Yes, please. Absolutely, man.
Oh, fantastic, dude. Thank you for having me, guys. I'll be back next week. Talk to you soon.